welcome to another Aloha Friday drip. This one's going to be a good one, right up in your eardrum. Get ready.
Yeah, before we get started, I just want to give Strat a huge shout out.
Yeah.
Having him here, one of our new content team members, Strat, he's been a huge help with the production of the podcast. So you're listening to this because of Strat's hard work.
Yeah,
if you're watching this on YouTube, especially if you're seeing any of our social media clips from the podcast, that's all because of Strat's hard work. So I just wanted to shout him out and say thank you. He's in office right now. So Strat, thank you, man. So appreciative of everything you do.
Absolutely, dude. It's been awesome. And we mentioned a little bit earlier his decisiveness. I love how confident and decisive he is. Like I show up to a recording, 5 a.m. at the beach, and I have 3 shirts. I'm wearing one, I got 2 others, and I walk up and it's like, I'm like, hey. Well, first off, my first thing I was like, hey, we've done it over here. Do you want to do it here? He's like, yep, this is why, and this is how come. I was like, so, bitching, love it. Hey, which shirt? He's like, that one. That's the one. Put it on. Like, which just your confidence will help other people become more confident.
Yeah.
So Strat, confident, decisive, mother effer, and we're grateful to have him here, dude.
Definitely. No, that's a great takeaway though. It's Strat's new to the team, and he was helping, and your confidence. You're the CEO of the company. Yeah. Not that there's like necessarily a weird hierarchy here.
Yes, there is. Damn it.
There is. I mean, there is to a certain point. But what I'm really trying to say is that you don't know your confidence can have an impact on people you don't even understand.
You know, it's so funny. This is not what the episode's about, by the way.
No.
But I was just on date night yesterday with Britt, and we were talking about how I don't want people around me that just validate things, dude. I want people that are going to just tell me how it is.
Yeah.
Like, because that is valuable, super valuable. A lot of people.
It is in line kind of with what we're going to talk about today, but.
Yeah, you're right. Communication.
Yeah.
Great point.
Yeah.
So what are we talking about?
We're going to talk about the power of communication.
Actually, let me backtrack.
Yeah.
So if you really want to be valuable to somebody, do not just say what you think that they want to hear.
That's a great point.
Truly tell them what you believe will be best, what is best, and be decisive. Yep. Decisiveness is valuable because it's rare.
Yes.
Boom.
Dude, another example of that. Here in office, we've got some guests this week. I won't call any names out. One of us was being negative. I don't want to throw anybody under the bus, but one of us was kind of being negative about this. It wasn't even like a really, really negative thing, but you called it out.
But do you know why
you were like, yo, quit being negative?
Do you want to know why I called it out? Because I saw it in myself. I saw that I do that. I'm like, it's just about how busy we are sometimes, you know?
Yeah.
And it hit me because I know that I do that sometimes.
Yeah.
That's one of the things I talked about. We had a Maui meeting today. I talked about Nico, who's also here, and how anytime I say I'm busy, she'll immediately say, productive. No, you're productive. Just productive. And it's just like those little things that it's like the switch of, man, even waking up at 5 a.m. to go record marketing videos. A lot of the times I'm like, oh my gosh, so tired. But today it was like energizing. Like, man, I get to go freaking record on the beach.
I love it.
In Maui? Get the F out of here, you know?
That's
just
awesome.
Little switches.
Yeah. Well, now that welcome to the Growthcast. We kind of just went off on tangents there. Welcome to the Growthcast. If you're not subscribed or following, do so. Please leave us a rating, a review, and share. But today the topic is going to be how to communicate with power.
Yes.
Right on the last episode, you talked about how being in Andy's. I don't even think you mentioned it on the episode. But maybe it was during
the Maui meeting.
Maybe it was during the Maui meeting.
His garage.
Yeah, the garage.
Yeah.
You went into Andy Frisella's garage with all of his millions of dollars worth of cars, and how that helped you think bigger. But you asked, there was a question asked. I want to turn it over to you so you.
I love it. There's a lot in there. So first off, the garage thing doesn't necessarily have to do with communication, but there was a question asked in the garage that led to communication.
Right.
So let me clarify this first. The garage aspect is where we had dinner. It's not like a regular garage like, you know, maybe the garages that you and I have. Some of y'all don't even have a garage. You have a carport. You need to definitely think bigger.
Yeah. I have to park on the street.
Oh, shit. No, dude, this garage is like unbelievable.
Yeah,
dude.
yeah.
It's where we had dinner, and it's 3-story, massive garage, 25 plus amazing cars in there. Over $40 million worth of cars, I asked him. $40 million worth of cars. And I mean, I'm not a car guy. I love cars, but I'm like, I would not know that it's over $40 million worth of cars. But he told me, I asked him what he gained from it. And he said, the inspiration that I've received from being in here has led to hundreds of millions of dollars of revenue, ideas, business ideas, blah, blah, blah. And it was this indirect return that he's received on something that makes him happy, that brings inspiration, that inspires him, you know?
Yeah.
It was pretty cool. He told me he'd visualized that far before, that ever became a reality, right? He'd visualized it multiple times, and that doesn't surprise me at all. That's a success hack.
Yeah.
But then one of the questions that I didn't ask, but somebody else asked why we were there was, how do you, to Andy, how do you crush it on stage? And really it comes, how do you crush it with communication? Because he's a very good communicator. So is Ed. And today, I believe that that's what we should talk about. That there's these two things that I have learned.
Yeah.
From multiple avenues, multiple aspects. I obviously speak for a living. I talk to lots of people all the time, and it's my job to deliver a message. And so I need to deliver it to a point where it's received, right?
Yeah.
Like literally that is a huge part of my job in every company that we have, whether it's communicating with team members, whether it's communicating with investors, brokers, speaking on stage and teaching and training. It's delivering a message to make sure that it's heard. And that even comes into play within my life with my kids and as a husband, as a dad, you know? And so I'll tell you this. What we're going to talk about today will impact anybody and everybody who's listening. It's a fact, because everyone needs to communicate a message. And we're also a little prideful, okay? So like, I'll be honest with you, I'd prepare like this, speech or talk that I was going to go give, or presentation, whatever, right? Or I'll be telling Pax something, or whatever it is, okay? Or a team member. And I'd be like, I don't think it's, I just nailed that. Absolutely. What I just told you was gold. I just told them what I just told them was gold. I don't even think that they realized that what I just told them was gold.
Right.
What the hell? That we expect people to listen to what we're saying. That's the pride that's within us, right?
Right.
But people are not always paying attention, right? So it's like, I'll be at an event teaching or something, and I'll say something, and I'll be like, I cannot believe these people aren't writing it down. Well, what I learned was I have to help them understand that it's important so that they write it down. And we do that through what I'm about to talk about. And I make sure that my kids understand that it's important before. So everything that I'm talking about, if you are communicating at any level in your life, which you are, unless you're Helen Keller, even she communicates, though.
Yep.
Gosh, that's funny as shit, though. Then this will impact you for sure.
We got Strat dying over here.
Strat's in tears.
Okay, so these two things. Let's dive in. Let's dive in.
That have absolutely had a massive impact on like how I communicate. Okay. One of them is, we call them framing. Now, have we ever talked about frame control on the pod?
On the pod? You've done trainings on it for the network, but I don't think we've ever talked about it in the pod. No.
So framing is different than frame control.
Okay.
Frame control, we can that's a whole episode in and of itself. Okay?
Right.
Maybe we can have an episode about frame control. But framing is how we start to deliver our message. And there's three ways, like there's three things within framing. Okay. So, and there's, once again, this is huge, man. This is absolutely huge. So there's the pre-frame, which is what's about to happen, right? So what you do is you create this frame before delivering the message. So what I used to do is I just would go deliver the message. Whether, once again, no matter who I'm talking to, brokers, kids, raising money, investors, whatever. But you have to pre-frame it. Okay, and I've learned this. I actually learned this again at, in fact, last episode we talked about being in St. Louis and
yeah. At First Form.
Ed talked about framing there too. But I also now, when I go and I watch different speakers present, I'm learning, and I'm also learning how they communicate.
Yeah.
Because they're phenomenal communicators.
That's one of the things you mentioned after Peak Partnership.
Oh, yeah.
Is you learned so much from listening to ET and Ed speak.
Oh, bro.
Yeah.
E.T. gets up the same day that I get up, a couple hours after I get up, and literally talks about some of the same topics that I talked about, but he delivered it in a way that was far more effective and efficient than the way that I delivered it. And why? It's a lot of the stuff that I'm going to talk about right now.
Sweet.
One of them is a pre-frame. And the pre-frame is, once again, just creating this frame before you deliver the message. So, in fact, I did it. I just did it to everyone listening right now. Like, before we start, I say, hey, man, this what we're about to talk about has created a huge impact in my life, whatever, right? This one's going to be a big one. This next one's a big one. So instead of hoping that they'll write it down,
giving them a heads up.
Literally, hey, this next one, you're gonna want to write this next one down. It's a big one. This next one's a big one. If you struggle with X, Y, Z, this next step is gonna help with that, right? It's setting this tone. So then what happens? Hey, man, if you struggle with communication, right? If you struggle with communication, getting your message across, what we're gonna talk about is gonna help you. Well, what's gonna happen? People are now all of a sudden like, okay, well, shit. And they're like,
waiting.
Let's go.
Yeah.
All I've done. Think about how simple that step is just pre-frame. I've set the frame. I've let them know what I'm about to go through, right? I've set the expectation. That little thing, those little things help us do the big things so much easier. But it's that little step up front.
Yeah.
So you have three portions, though. You have the pre-frame.
Real quick, that is just such a big, that's huge in any aspect of your life. But it's cool that it's also in communication as well, right? It's that setting your intentions before you even go into the conversation or whatever it is that you're doing. That's just such a huge takeaway for anything you're trying to accomplish, but especially communicating. I think that's something that a lot of people forget to do. This is what we're going to talk about. They just go in there and start spitting knowledge, right? So I think that's huge, huge takeaway.
I have to think about it all the time, and I hope one day it gets to a point where and sometimes it is. Like if it's a message that I've delivered before, or it's subconscious at that point, like or unconscious. Sorry, I can do it unconsciously, but most of the time I have to be pretty conscious about it, and you will too. Just for the record, you're gonna have to be very conscious about it. You're just starting, you're just trying, you're going to have to be very conscious, but you'll see that the message delivers, man, and it connects. That's what you're trying to do, So, and it's those little things those little things in your life in every aspect will help you do the bigger things easier. That's why we always say don't skip the small steps, because those small steps help you do the big steps. Like absolutely deliver and land a message. These little steps before will help you with that, right? So the pre-frame. So there's three areas. There's the pre-frame, there's the actual message, and then there's the post-frame. That's one thing that I really noticed. For whatever reason, I noticed it a ton with ET at Peak. It's probably one of the biggest things that I took from him at Peak was that he repeated everything multiple times. In fact, 3 times is what I pulled from that. How many times is it repeated? 3 times.
Okay.
And then I started to think afterwards, because once again, in the moment, you're listening, you're learning, you're observing, but then I'm taking notes this whole way through, and then I go back and I study my notes, right? And I'm looking, I'm like, okay, well shit. Well, no, he's framing, dude. He's just framing, and I know what framing is, but he's framing in a way that's so great that I'm not even realizing what he's doing, right?
Yeah.
But that's what he's doing. He's framing these 3 things: pre-frame, message, post-frame. So pre-frame, for an example, even with kids, okay? PAX, I get home from a trip. I get home from St. Louis, actually.
Cheesecake.
St. Louis, man.
This trip. A lot came from this trip.
And that night, I'm trying to think of exactly, but he was just disrespectful. I'm trying to think exactly what he did, but he was just disrespectful to Britt, And a lot of the times I believe that I would have just went in and been like, well, I wouldn't have been as intentional as I was, right? And what? Hey, boy.
Get right to it. Yeah.
You just dive right in.
Yeah.
How many of us do that?
I mean, especially in emotional situations like that.
Yep.
Very often.
Very often. But I'd been gone, for a few days, and I missed him. Gosh, damn, I missed him, So I'm like, man, I just want this little dude to feel loved and know that I just love him to death. But I also know that I have to deliver a tough message right now, And so I go into his room and put my arm around him. That's another thing is pull him, as a parent, pull him close, man. Think about a lot of times when we're giving tough feedback, there's distance, right? Well, the surest way to make sure that your message is delivered is passion is key, but also just caring,
Yeah.
So what do you do when you have to deliver a hard message? Don't pull away, pull them close.
Lean into it.
Lean into it. Exactly.
Yeah.
So I literally physically get closer, put my arm around him. Hey man, who loves you more than anybody? I actually mentioned, this is what I always say to him. Who loves you more than anybody? And he'll always say his mom. And I'll be like, who else? And they'll say me, right? And so I say, hey, buddy, who loves you more than anybody? He's like, Mom, you, right? And then I'm like, exactly, man. And what do I want for you? You want me to be happy? You're damn right I do, man. I want you to be happy because I love you, man. I want to help you. So what I'm about to tell you, what I'm about to tell you right now is because I want to help you and because I love you. But I have to tell you this. It's going to be uncomfortable for you maybe. But buddy, I'm doing it because I love you.
Yeah.
And I want you to understand it, right? So now all of a sudden his instead of putting guard up right up front, what's he doing? He knows that the intentions are pure. He knows. And so have him pulled in close. And then I deliver a message that's listen, buddy, if I ever hear you talking to your mom like that again, I will paddle your ass so hard it will bleed. Do not ever talk to my wife like that again. That's your mom. Ever. That's not acceptable for you to talk to my wife or any other person, especially women. We don't do that, man. We do not do that. Do you hear me? Do you hear me? Yes. Okay. Now, buddy, hey, who loves you more than anybody? You do. Sure do, man. And why do I want you to know that? I want you to know that we don't talk to women or your mom like that because, buddy, we got to respect them, man. We got to respect them. And guess what? That's going to make you what? Happy. It's going to make you happy. So, buddy, what I'm just telling you right now is going to have a huge impact on your relationships with your mom, with everyone. And you know what? One day you're going to have a wife. Remember that. Hey, remember that. Okay? We do not speak to my wife or your wife or anybody like that.
Yeah.
You get it? Get in here, buddy. I love you, man. Who loves you the most? Anyway. So it's delivering this message, right? The pre-frame, the post-frame, the actual message. But it's repeating it multiple times, right?
Yeah. Real quick, Pax is obviously a child and he's not perfect, but how has it been since you've been able to approach it that way with him?
Dude, anytime, massive.
Yeah.
For me as a dad.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, massive for me as a dad.
Yeah.
In anything. Like, dude, in baseball, not trying his hardest. In fact, dude, just yesterday, we were at the house and he wasn't trying his hardest. And most of the time I just, a lot of the times if I'm not doing it intentionally, I'm just going to, with intention is what I should say. You just go right into the message.
You're right.
And they don't receive it. It's that I believe the biggest aspect of that literally is the pre-frame.
Yeah.
Setting that context. What the pre-frame does is it circumvents resistance we circumvent resistance by creating these frames. So there's natural resistance, especially in tough conversations.
Sure.
But you circumvent that by creating a frame up front.
Yeah, it kind of gets rid of the defense that it doesn't need to be an argument.
That's exactly it.
That it's just going to just going to be a conversation right now.
That's it.
Yeah, that makes so much sense.
Yep. So when you want to deliver a big point with, we have a bunch of people on here who listen who are multifamily investors, right? You want to deliver an important message to your investors. It's the same thing. Pre-frame it. Let them know that what you're about to tell them is going to impact them in X way, and then deliver it, right?
Right.
And then wrap it back up at the end. So it's the same thing, man. It doesn't even have to be tough conversations. There's resistance in anything because as human beings, there's resistance. There's just natural resistance.
It's that pride. I really feel like it's a pride thing that
or skeptical or wondering or evaluating.
Sure.
You know?
Yeah. That's so powerful. So not only in correction, you can use this, but we're talking about the how to communicate with power.
Yep.
Whether you're instructing, whether you're correcting, whether you're teaching, whatever it is that you're doing, to do these steps is what you're saying is going to help the message be received better.
Yep.
Gotcha.
Because think about even resistance of distraction. It's a busy world, man.
Yeah.
You're delivering a message to somebody on the phone, but you don't know what's going on the other line of the phone.
Sure.
Their kid might be going fucking ham, chucking chalk and shit across the room. I don't know.
Chalk.
Whatever. I don't know why chalk came up. Does chalk still even exist? An iPad across the room.
A dry erase marker.
But all of a sudden you're like, hey, you pre-frame it. Hey, what I'm about to tell you, I think is going to be the biggest thing for you.
Yeah.
Just simply from our conversations and what your needs are and what you're looking for as an investor. I believe that this portion is going to be probably what impacts you the most about it. And now they're like,
now they're engaged.
They're ready, right?
Yeah.
It's just, once again, it's the pre-frame.
That's awesome. That's okay. So you talked about two things. First thing being framing, then.
Yep.
And the importance of the pre-frame, but also the post-frame.
Yeah, because you wrap it back up.
Yeah.
You know, the post-frame is really where you're sinking that message in.
Yeah.
And tying it back in together.
Yeah.
You know.
Dude, it's really interesting because we put on these events and we talk about how people's attention spans are really about 60 to 90 minutes.
Yeah.
60 to 90 minutes. But when you do that pre-frame, it's almost like, hey, pay attention right now.
Yes.
Hey, this is the part where you need to pay attention.
Yep.
And it really does it just really entices them to listen to the next things that are going to come into your mouth, because everybody's like that. That's just human tendency, is to get distracted, and there's information being thrown at us all the time. Especially with technology, we're getting bombarded with information.
Yes.
So setting that pre-frame, be like, hey, listen, tell them what they need to hear, and then ending it with, okay, now you can be done listening to this important spot.
Yeah.
It almost makes a memory too. It creates something that they can turn back on and think about.
I call it a loop, bro.
Yeah.
That's what I call it, is a loop. And what I mean by that, there's another little ditty, tidbit. I call it an open loop when I'm telling a story. So when I'm telling a story, a lot of the times I'll say something that engages, and I call that an open loop or a hook. Okay, something that engages. Now that naturally gets people's attention.
Yeah.
Then I will deliver whatever message I want to deliver. Then I'm not even telling the story. I'm saying I'll deliver a message, an important point, because they're on the hook from here. Deliver this important point because they're paying attention. Then I'll close the loop and finish up the story. I'll do that when I'm speaking. I'll do that when I'm talking to brokers. I'll do that when I'm talking to my kids. I'll do that with anything. Set something that grabs their attention. Deliver an important message, finish the story, close the loop, and now all of a sudden that's all combined, right? Yeah. It's created a memory, like you just said, in their mind. Yeah.
You did that on the Maui Mindset meeting today.
With what?
Let me see. You started.
Oh, I did.
Yeah.
You're right.
Yeah,
I did.
Yeah.
Why do some people thrive and others not?
Yeah.
You're right.
You started it. You started talking. You even started talking about the canoe at the beginning too, and then you wrapped it up talking about the canoe at the end.
Yes.
Yeah.
No, that's exactly
that open loop to finish it up at the end. Okay. So
one more thing with it.
Yeah. I'm really eager to get to the second thing.
Sometimes it's not even about. Sometimes it's not even about saying something. Sometimes it's doing exactly what I just did, which is saying nothing. Because what are you doing? You know that my mind is processing something, about to say something. There's silence. Silence is a rarity in today's world.
Yeah.
And so people peek up like, you're talking, all of a sudden there's silence, and they're like, oh shit.
What did I miss?
Did he just have a stroke?
Yeah.
What's he doing over there? Is he having a stroke, or is he? Oh, no, he just hit me with some truth. Oh, okay. You know what I mean? Silence does it too.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Totally. No, that it definitely does it. Okay. First thing's framing then. Thank you for sharing that. Such powerful information there that you just shared. The second thing, what's the second thing?
Second thing is anchoring.
Okay.
Anchoring is something that I would say I've learned more recently, for sure, of truly the power of anchoring. And I actually did it a second ago. I can't remember what part I was talking about.
PAX, I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
What did I do?
You snapped.
Yes.
Yep.
So just on the drive home last night, for an example, I was telling Pax, talking about repeating, framing, all these kind of things. And I was like, Pax, because the two things I needed to get, the message that I needed to deliver to Pax was, number one, you've got to listen. You've got to listen. And truly listen with intent. And number two, you've got to try your hardest. Listen, try your hardest. Listen, try your hardest. I'm snapping. Ed Milet does that.
Yep.
Ed Milet, you'll watch any of his presentations, anytime, any training, anything, and even if you're just listening to his podcast, you'll hear this. He snaps, okay? And what that snapping does is it helps anchor the message. So you have these frames that you've set, but you also want to anchor that message. Inky Johnson, I mentioned Inky Johnson last trip. Inky Johnson came to speak at the Arate Summit that I went to in St. Louis.
Powerful.
And as he's speaking, I had never noticed this about Inky before. So I don't know if it's something new that he's been doing. But when he would go to deliver like an important point, and I'm actually going to tie in a different part of this later, okay? So don't remind me, okay, about visualization.
Yeah.
But when he would go in to tie in an important point, Inky would slap his leg loud, like boom, like he only has one arm, right? He can't clap. E.T. claps.
E.T. claps.
Go watch anything if he does. Listen, I don't think you're hearing what I'm telling you right now. Listen. And then he'll deliver a message. Okay. So that's anchoring. That's what anchoring is. And it goes deeper than that, though. And this is what I've learned as of late. And I learned it again at the summit. Ed talked a little bit about this. Actually, he talked, I would say, almost in depth about this, which is powerful. And I never sunk in for me, right? It was powerful for me in a number of different levels. But that's how you deliver this message. And you can't abuse it. Like, you can't abuse, if you're always, every freaking bullet point that you have, you're like, this is the important one. Dude, come on.
Yeah.
It's not going to happen. It's not going to work, right? You need to be very intentional about it. Your anchors, though, you can do those more often as you're delivering these points. Hey, you can deliver them. You can anchor them, and you can do it more often, and it goes deeper than just anchoring the message to them, to the people you're communicating to. You're anchoring the message to yourself, the feeling to yourself, okay? And this is the part that I wanted to. Did you have anything that you wanted to say before I get into this visualization side?
No, I just want to hear more about that.
Okay.
Yeah, no, that's where my questions would come from. No, go ahead.
Okay. So talking to Ed and really picking his mind about this, he does it in a couple different layers. He does it certainly to deliver the message and make sure that it's sticking, but he's also doing it to make sure it's sticking with him. So, for example, we want to, when we visualize, for an example, okay, let me go to visualization. When you're visualizing as an example, you want to, yes, you're visualizing what you want, but it's really, you need to anchor it with the feeling that you're looking for. That's what it is. And he was saying, he's like, man, imagine if you truly believe that your thoughts, that what you're thinking are creating the future, how much more intentional will you be about them?
Yeah.
And I truly believe, I really do believe that our thoughts create our future. This is what he's saying. But he's saying, it's really not the thing that you're looking for. It's the feeling that you get with that thing, that thing brings, right? A Harley Davidson. It's not the Harley Davidson that makes you feel good. It is, but it's the recognition.
It's what you want is the feel of it, not necessarily the Harley. You want the feel of what it's like to be somebody that drives a Harley.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's why they're so loud, because what happens when you freaking crank the
throttle.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
What happens? It's loud.
Yeah.
And what do people do? They look at you. It's recognition, dude.
Yeah.
It's what it is. But it's the feeling that you're getting from that recognition. It's like, man, I'm somebody that people are looking at.
Interesting.
And this is what Ed's saying, right? Ed's talking about when he's speaking and he sees that people are, that it's engaging, that the message is landing. He says a lot of times, that's when I'm doing this. That's when I'm doing this. Why? Because it helps me get back to that state quicker. And then he brought up.
That's incredible.
Okay, yes. And so think about how important this is, okay? Do you ever feel shitty?
Obviously. Yeah.
Do you ever feel like you're not worthy or you're not capable of what you're trying to pursue?
Yes.
Yes, me too.
Yeah.
Me too. Everyone that's listening to this, I guarantee that they have felt that. Maybe they're feeling it right now.
Yeah.
This part, anchoring it, is what was massive when I was listening to Ed. He was saying that one of the most impactful things that he does with that, when he's feeling in a state that he's not a peak state, when he's feeling not like his most confident self, he can snap, right? Ed's is snapping. So he snap. And it reminds him, it takes him back into those deeper emotional states, that trigger of when he's been delivering a message, when he's been impactful, when he's been helping other people. Does that make sense?
Totally.
So when will he do it? He'll do it all the time when he's in an emotional state.
Wow.
The higher the emotional state, the deeper the trigger. So he'll do it all the time. So when you're visualizing, as an example, okay? You're visualizing what the feeling that you want. So it's not just I'm visualizing a house that I want, as an example, or do a house, because this is the example I gave earlier. It is you're visualizing and literally having this conversation of, man, what's it going to be like when I'm walking down those stairs and greeting somebody at my front door and walking them through my house and through the living room and out straight to the beach that has this pool. And man, what's it going to be like to drive in that gate? And like, you're anchoring it, right?
Yeah.
You're anchoring it throughout. Okay. Now, when you're visualizing, you can do that all the time. And remember, the higher the emotional state, the deeper the trigger. So when you're speaking, as an example, like Ed on stage, and you see that your message is delivering, that's a high emotional state.
Yeah.
That's why he's doing this. I want to remember this. I want to remember this. He says when he's at a concert, he'll start to visualize when he's at a concert. Why? Because music provides deep emotional states. So he'll start to, like, when he's at a concert, when he's speaking, for me, it's like when I'm surfing and I'm out in nature in the morning, gosh, damn, dude. That is when I feel it all the time. I feel like obviously there's multiple times where your emotional states, but those feelings of gratitude, that's when I try to anchor. Because then I can go back to that, right?
Special. Yeah, that's awesome.
I was going to say one more.
Go ahead.
Ed even does it when he's doing it.
He does it while he does it.
He does it while he does it.
Wow.
And I was like, is
that too far?
Did he just say that?
Did he explain why?
So now, as you know, over the last little bit, I've just been, every time me and Britt are getting crazy in the bedroom, I've just been like this.
Oh, wow.
And it's working, bro. Deep emotional state. But man, so when you're in a peak state, here's the takeaway. Here's the actionable for you, okay? When you're in a peak state, whatever that is for you, maybe that's riding horses. Maybe that's out golfing. Maybe that's when you're on the beach. Maybe it's when you're driving in your car. I don't know. But whenever you're in that emotional state, that deep peak state, anchor it. However you do it. You can do it by slapping your chest. You can do it by clapping. You can do it by snapping. You can do it by whatever you do that can get you back into it. Then when you go to deliver any message at any time, or communication is the theme here, right?
Yeah.
But really, when you just need to pick yourself back up, man, you can begin to tap into those anchors that you've created.
And it's a way that you can communicate with yourself.
Yes.
It really truly is.
It is.
A deeper communication with yourself. Yeah. It's almost a subconscious communication with yourself.
That's it, dude. That's it.
I have learned so much on this episode. So thank you. Holy cow. So many good takeaways here. I can't wait to re-listen to this one because there are so many golden nuggets in this. Anything else you want to share there concerning anchoring or visualization?
No, but I don't want to forget this side because I did an open loop in the beginning, a hook in the beginning that I forgot to close the loop.
Well, we're not done, so you can still close it.
Good. I didn't forget. I was just making sure that everyone was aware. I told you that the question was asked to Andy, how does he crush it on stage?
Yeah.
And I love this answer freaking so damn much, man. And my respect for Andy increased so much through this whole training. And it's because I've mentioned this multiple times since I've been back, and I know you've heard me say this. But he immediately was like, well, so how do you crush it from stage? So we're all like, what do you do to prepare? What's what I'm thinking, right? And he says, well, dude, I care. I truly care. Like the message that I'm about to deliver, I know that it can impact somebody's life. E.T. said that same thing when I asked him that backstage at Peak. Dude, I'm prepared because I know that the message that I'm about to deliver can impact somebody's life. The message that every one of you listening to this right now, that you can deliver to people can impact people's life. So man, these little things that help you do that at a higher rate is huge, but you have to care.
Yeah.
So here's this hack, okay? Because I've talked to, when you're talking to somebody, this is intimidating. You're talking to somebody that you don't know what their background is. You don't know how experienced they are. You don't know who that person is or how they're going to take you. And a lot of the times what I would do is I would be so worried about, it still happens to me to this day where I'm worried about delivering the perfect message in the perfect way, because I feel like there's these expectations, right? But I remove it. How I remove it, before I ever go do a podcast, before I do a Maui meeting, before I go speak at an event, what have you noticed that I do? Where do I go? I'll lead you into it.
No, I know you didn't need to lead me into it. I've noticed it for sure because it's something that I've started to do. You take a minute. You step out. I don't know what you do when you leave the office, but you do. You take a second and you walk out before any meeting.
And I pray.
Yeah.
And you know what I pray for? It's the same prayer every time. I don't do Hail Mary. I don't do those repetitive prayers. But the prayer that I do before I ever go deliver any message that is of importance, which I believe these messages on the podcast are important. The Maui meetings, that I just say a prayer that I will be able to impact, that I will be an instrument to be a blessing in the lives of anyone who's listening, and that I will be able to truly impact them in the best way, and that I'll be able to help them in some way, that they'll be able to leave whatever the call, the meeting, the whatever, in a better position than they came in. I set my intention, right? Yeah. That's what I do.
You set the frame for yourself.
That's a great way to put
what
that.
You're going to go do. Yeah. It's powerful.
I've never thought of it that way. I love that.
That's powerful.
That's what I do. So then my intention is set, and now I go deliver it. So it's not about me. It takes the pressure off of me. It's not about me, dude. It's about everything that I'm trying to do, which takes the pressure. What I mean by that is it takes the pressure off of you for trying to have to say the perfect thing. Dude, people will sense your intentions far more than they hear what you say.
Yeah.
People will sense your intentions far more than they will hear what you say. So think about pre-framing, like you just talked about, setting that intention.
Yeah.
Before you go in, you've done all this work to prepare what you're about to say, but they're going to sense your intention far more than they hear what you say. So set that intention, because they'll feel it, man, and they'll respond to that way more, So it takes the pressure off of you to go in and just literally provide value and help them. It's not about getting an investor to invest. It's not about it's about helping, whatever that is. And if I can help them, great. If what I'm doing is not going to be able to help them, that's okay. I want them to get the help and whatever that they need. So this genuine intent to just serve and provide value, that's so much more powerful than knowledge at defeating any type of resistance that you're up against.
Yeah.
So.
No, dude, that's awesome. So what you're saying is before you can even use any of these strategies in communication to communicate with power, you have to set your intentions.
You should.
For it to really land the way you want it to, for it to be successful, for you to be able to really communicate with power, your intentions have to be there.
Yeah.
Have to be there.
You could use these right now, these principles, these strategies, and have bad intentions. And these things will weaponize you to help you. They will.
Yeah.
They just will. But if you truly want to make an impact and you truly want that to be a lasting thing that you do, your intentions have to be pure. So if you want any type of longevity with anything that you're doing, impact-wise, anything that you're doing, then you need to set your intention.
That's awesome. It leads right there. Thank you for clarifying there and also just saying that again. It leads right into the Hawaiian value for this week, which was ku'upa'a. Kupa'a. There you go.
Kupa'a.
That was pretty. That was much better. The second attempt was way better, which means to stand firm and steadfast.
I love it.
Right, and we're talking about communication and setting that frame and getting across your message with love, and then closing up that frame, making sure you're anchoring and doing all these things, but to do it with confidence.
Yes.
Stand in there if you're delivering a hard message, even if it's not received, even if you're doing these things and there's still kickback.
Yep.
To stand in there with steadfastness and firmness to deliver that message that needs to be delivered.
It's perfect. And how do you do that? Your intention's pure.
You got to have that.
That's perfect.
Yeah. But by having that pure intention, you'll sit in there and take whatever's coming at you to make sure that message is to stand firm, dude. To make sure that you can deliver the message you want to.
That's awesome, bro. That goes in so well. I didn't know what the Hawaiian value was, nor did he know that we were going to talk about intentions or anything.
It just
that
worked
was
out.
Awesome.
It worked out.
Woo! Listen, y'all. Hopefully you pulled some value from today's episode so that you can go communicate with some mother effing power. And if not, then go back and re-listen and live always with aloha. Peace.